Yeah. Says the Holy Alter Rebbe, welcome back. Page 8 of Parshas Vayikra in Likkutei Torah. We're learning the Maimer of Tashbis Melach, the Biur, the explanation on the pasuk that you shouldn't withhold salt from the korbanos. And we went into an elaborate explanation on the power of learning. And we begin. Talmud Torah shel Chachmei HaMishnah. V'Agbara asher zeh haya v'dasim kol hayamin lo yipasak pumi begirsa. Based on the above explanation, we understand the intense commitment and preoccupation of studying of Torah of the Chachmei HaMishnah, the Gemara, in which their divine service, their whole entire life was dedicated to this. Lo yipasak pumi begirsa. Their words did not stop uttering Torah. And they would review their study every 30 days, from 30 days to 30 days, as it says in Masechta Shabbos Madlikin regarding Rashbi. The Gambit, meaning to say, it's not only that they would learn new things. Mela, you're learning new things. They would review their other stuff. Oh, v'gam b'zayir nisker ma'ide masnisa ma'ide kabbalah mu'atim hayu. Umau alimud seder zrayim b'tzemach haaretz seder taretz avetz hatuma chuli. The Zayir mentions the masters of the Mishnah and the masters of Kabbalah were few. Umau alimud, and what would they be learning? Seder zrayim b'tzemach haaretz, the seder of zrayim, which dealt with agriculture of the earth. The Seder Taharis and the order, the tractate of Taharis that dealt with laws of purity and impurity, Avos Hatuma, for example, the primary source of impurity. Shema Kol Medabrim Beinyanim Gashmim. What does Mishnah really consist of? Physical things. Lefisha Bahem Nislabsha Chachmasa Yizbarich Hadei Slavshus Bechachma Debriya Chuli. It's only that what is enclosed, the wisdom of God is enclosed in them, like the wisdom of Atzilus invests itself in Bria, like we said above, in which what? And notwithstanding the physical contours and limitations of these items that are discussed in the Mishnah, the light of the infinite one is invested and enclosed in them. Again, we're justifying the preoccupation of these master scholars, that they're not only learning new things and innovating new things in Torah, but they're reviewing their studies of seemingly very non-spiritual things. The point is, this is the whole purpose of creation, to draw down an infinite light of Hashem and its revelation, which is higher than Atzilus. To the point that even the Malachim are requesting Torah for this sake. And it was not bequeathed to them. It was only bequeathed to the Jewish people, Dafka. Why? Because within the power of the Jewish soul, that only within our capacity to reveal the infinite light of Hashem, the transcendent subconscious energy of godliness within the world specifically. And therefore, the Torah is invested and enclosed in physical items and physical descriptions. Why? There's a psychological or plemius reason for this. Remember what we're questioning, what we're answering. We're questioning if godliness is so invested in Torah, then why don't I see the ruchnius? Because at the end of the day, the whole purpose is Gashmias. Why is the whole purpose Gashmias? Look what he says. Because afterwards, when there will be the revival of those who passed away, which is the whole purpose of creation, and the whole zenith of Hashem's desire in fulfillment in creation, that what Gilui Zeh, this revelation, will be in neshamas shebegufim dafka, specifically as neshamas are invested in bodies. So therefore, Torah as well has to mimic, has to reflect the whole purpose of creation. If the whole purpose of creation is what? Is understanding how God is woven into the fabric of physical of physical reality. When will that be revealed? When Tchias HaMeisim happens. So therefore, just like Tchias HaMeisim is Neshama begufim, so to Torah has to be Neshama begufim. What's Neshama begufim? The R Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem, specifically has to be in the guf. What's the guf? Of physicality. So therefore you're learning about Meiser and Arla and Peah and all the agricultural things, and you're dealing with Tum and Tara, which deals with what? Where does Tum and Tara come from? From the vacant energy that used to be once in a human body, which is now defined as a corpse, which is also physical. That's why he's giving those two examples: Zrayim and Taharis. Zrayim has to do with literally the physical earth. Taharis has to do also with what? What do we call a human being? Adam, right? Why do we call Adam? From the word Adama, right? It's the same thing. Adam is earth, right? So the earth, which makes up, which is the composition of the physical body, right? That's pshatum and tara, right? The purity and impurity is really only makes an effect on something that is earth-like, right? We see of klicheres also is an earthenware vessel, right? Dafka comes from the earth. Hainu. So now we understand. So again, one more time, the Torah has to be a revelation of the infinite light, the transcendent energy of God, as it's woven and invested in the physical. And this is what Torah is, and that will be manifest and revealed with the coming of Mashiach at Tchias HaMeisim, Neshamas begufim, which is exactly what Torah is. It's the neshama of God in the guf of this world. Hainu, but how do we get to this level? By the suspension of the ego of the soul. Achshav, nu Tchias HaMeisim is momentary, but we don't have it tangibly. So how do we have Tchias HaMeisim in Galus? Imagine, what's Tchias HaMeisim in Galus? Learning. Learning is the revival of the dead. That what? What does dead and alive mean? Prior to me understanding and focusing on what my purpose is in creation, right? I have no purpose, that means that it's dead. If something is not purposeful or meaningful to me, it's as if it's like non-existent. How do I imbue meaning and purpose into something that's non-existent? I have to make it existent. How do I make it existent? I have to learn about it. I have to show that this is something that's part of my life. So what am I doing? Hainu. By the nullifying of the soul and its inclusion in the infinite light now. How do we do that? What is the platform for Tchias HaMeisim right now? Now again, the whole Maimer is going to discuss, which part of Torah is actually Mechaya Meisim. This is a spoiler report, but spoiler alert. But if you're learning Nigle, that means that you're only learning the Guf of Torah. So where's the Neshama? Where's the revival? So it must mean you need a little bit of salt, you need a little bit of Pnimius. The Pnimius is the Neshama in the Guf that you are able to resurrect that which is dead, the body of this existence, the body of this world. But first he's building it up. First you have to understand what's Esak HaTorah. And remember, what was the preoccupation of the Tanoim and the Amayuraim to the point that they would repeat their studies every 30 days? Because they wanted to revive the dead. Their whole entire life was dedicated to bringing light to darkness and reviving that which is seemingly non-existent. And that's where Esak HaTorah kana. Because what happens when you learn Torah? You lasso the physicality of this world and take it out of its isolated realm. Because by itself, alone, without the purpose and meaning and light of Torah, it's a yesh b'fnei atzmai. It's an identity that sees itself as on its own, isolated from any meaning and purpose. But what happens when you start learning about a pit in somebody else's yard? And what happens when you start learning about an ox goring a cow? What happens when you start learning about people fighting with each other? But what happens when you start learning about it? When you start revealing the truth and the light of that particular case, and of the myriad upon myriad of cases in the Mishnah and the Gemara, you are creating from a Rishus HaRabim to Rishus HaYachid. You're creating from a public domain that things are disparate and fragmented and isolated on their own, and you're creating what? That no, everything is part of Hashem's world. Rishus HaYachid. The Yichudei Shalolam, the unique singularity of godliness, is really permeating every single aspect and every single item of this world. But the way that I'm able to reveal that energy of God within the isolated, fragmented sparks of the world is by learning. So by learning, I'm reeling in that physical thing and imbuing it with meaning. Yes, in and of itself, alone, it is its own identity. But once I bring it, I reel it in to the realm of Torah, I'm nullifying it to its own truth. What is its own truth? That it's really part of the domain of Hashem, to the infinite light of Hashem, which is manifest in His will and His wisdom. Shezau Eisek HaTorah. That's called the occupying oneself of Torah. Like it's written, Hashem Kochi. He doesn't finish the pasuk. It says, do not profane my name, right? My holy name. Now, what does he say? Profane means what? So to make a difference between chayil and kodesh, right? Mundane and holy. He says, no. What's v'lo yisechalu? Don't profane. Lo yisechalu shelo lasid v'chenes chalal. What's a chalal? We know Api Kabbalah that Hashem made a vacated space. Right, the Arizal teaches that prior to the existence of what the world that we know it, there was infinite light, whatever that means, and then He created a chalal. He vacuumed, so to speak, His presence from that space, and within that vacuum, He injected something called the kav, and that ray or string of light is the source of all of existence. This is the way the Arizal and Rav Chaim Vital explained the creation of the world. The Rabbi Rashab in the Tzemach Vav gives an example of a teacher teaching students, and he says that prior to the actual class that the teacher is expressing, right, his brain is full of his own light, of his own energy, of his own information. And then he understands, okay, I have to now manufacture my teachings, my scholarliness to these students. So I have to make a chalal. He's giving a psychological version of what a chalal means. And again, even there's no physical thing as a chalal, right? It's not that, there was a world and Hashem removed that light. You can't think about it that way. So it has to be mental, right? So what's a mental expression of that? That I have, my head is full of stuff, right? Full of information, full of ideas. How am I going to teach this class? So I have to make a chalal, I have to make a vacuum. I have to vacuum that information of whatever is existing, and you're creating what? A chalal, an open, a vacated space. Within that vacated space, then you imbue one injection of light. What's that injection of light? The class that I'm about to teach. He says that's the mashal for the way the world was created. So when Hashem says v'lo yisechalu, don't profane my name. He's not saying don't profane my name. How do you create profanity? How do you create a mundaneness to godliness? By creating a vacuum and a concealment of the infinite light. You hear what he's saying? He's saying don't make a chalal, don't make a vacuum of my presence from anything in this world. The moment that you learn Torah, you're reverting. You're taking away the possibility for chalal. You're taking away the possibility for the vacuum of that existence. Meaning to say that the physical item prior to you learning it in the realm or in the platform of Torah, it's in a realm of chalal. That means to say it's in its own isolated space, vacated from godliness. Lo yisechalu. Don't profane my holiness. Don't think that any item of this world is isolated and by itself. It's not in its own chalal. Lo yisechalu. But lo yisechalu shelo, meaning to say, don't actively make a vacuum, ve'helam, and a concealment, Ein Sof Baruch of the infinite light of Hashem. Shehu, why not? Shehu yizbarich ein shayda b'mishu yesh v'davar she'ein ani v'hu yichel l'nadu ba'olam, because Hashem, it says, this is I think from Alter Rebbe speaks about this in chapter 6, where he discusses klipa. What's the epitome of klipa? Is the idea of yesh. So so the Eibishter, Hashem, does not dwell, is not investing himself in somebody who's yesh v'davar, in somebody who perceives themselves as a fixed identity. That me and him, that fixed identity, cannot dwell in the same place. Right? The words, why is he using the words she'ein ani v'hu yechel l'nadu b'olam? We discussed this before in another place. That me and him are not able to dwell in the same place. What's me and him? Ani is the same letters as what? What's the opposite of yesh? Ayin. So ein ayin v'hu yachol l'nadar. If he sees himself as a yesh, he cannot ever be a space for my ayin. If he sees himself as a fixed identity, that I'm a yesh, and therefore this whatever I'm interacting with is also a yesh. What do you mean? There's no God. It's atheism. Atheism creates everything as its own individual, isolated God. So if that's the case, then it's a yesh. So the ayin of Ein Sof, right? The ayin, the non-existent energy of God, the energy of Hashem that is not limited to time and space, cannot dwell there. you're pushing it out, and you're creating a chalal. The moment that I perceive the world as something isolated, as something separate from godliness, which means to say that I'm promoting its yeshus, I'm promoting its ego, I'm creating a chalal, I'm creating a vacuum of the energy that really is there. Because remember, when the teacher creates a chalal within his mind, where did the information go? Right? This is the difference between tzimtzum kipshutai, laf kipshutai. Very interesting letter of the Rebbe. Yeah, four opinions. But let's not go there. But what happens to the information? That's it, I forgot it? No, I pushed it away. So it means to say a chalal is not really even a chalal. A chalal is for the moment that I have to teach the class, so I'm creating a vacuum within my mind to displace or to remove the information momentarily. But the minute that I'm finishing the class, that's it. The infinite light is there. So the same thing now. Lo yisechalu means not that Hashem left the world, chas v'shalom. Not that this chair, this table, this book are isolated fragments of existence. Rather, what? They're all part of Hashem's world. The way we reel it back into the Ein Sof, melting it away in the Ein Sof of as it was originally, is by removing that chalal, by removing that helem. But that's literally what a person does, or what an entity does, as a result of if it's seeing itself as some type of yesh. In the yeshus of that, in the ego or in the fixed identity of that item, as long as it does not soften its perception of self and realize that it has a source, it's stuck within a world of chalal. It's stuck within a world of yesh. It's stuck within the world of I vacuumed the Or Ein Sof from this thing. That's the power of making a bracha, right? Why is Judaism so obsessed with making brachas? Because when you make a bracha, you're bringing kedusha. He says the opposite of a choil is kodesh, right? So the vacuum of whatever the pizza was existing in this vacuum of non-godliness, right? The bracha is hamshacha. You're imbuing the kedusha within that vacated space. That now it's reeled back into a state of godliness, and its yeshus is now softened. It's known. No, he goes into it. We know that in order to bring about the world, however, Hashem needed a chalal and a makom panoi. He needed a vacuum and a vacated space. It's part of the existence of the world. And we know that the sequence of events was that Hashem imbued this kav. He injected this ray, string or ray of light in the place of the chalal. Like we just gave the example of the teacher, once he's in the class, and he sees the type of students that he needs to now cater to. So now he's going to give that kav. Now again, wow, my teacher's so brilliant, he's so amazing. What aspect of the teacher do you perceive to be amazing and brilliant? Mamish, only a kav. So, wow, Hashem is so glorious, so majestic. The physicality of this world is so overwhelming. That's all just coming from just a kav. It's just literally a ray of that infinite light, and within that, and the ray of that infinite light is inhabiting this chalal, this open space. What's the idea of the chalal? The chalal is the concealment of the light, and the kav is the notion of revelation. However, the revelation is meager and very, very minimal. For example, that's why we call it a kav v'chut. What's a kav v'chut literally in Hebrew? Kav means a line and chut means a string. Right? Levad, we're implying that it's a very minimal expression of godliness compared to the Ein Sof that was preceding the chalal. Al kain, therefore, so now, what do we say? Hashem creates a chalal, this vacuum, vacated space of so to speak, this location, this mental location of godliness is lacking godliness there, and then he imbues it with a kav. But what happens from the kav? From the kav, hishtalshelus happens. What's hishtalshelus? The chain of events, or the chain of realities, or the chain of consciousnesses that are descending to our world that eventually will become olam asiyah. Within that, what happens? The kav, which is this power or energy of light becomes shrouded by the concealment of the various worlds that are coming after it. And even the glimmer of the kav itself concludes, its finale is in Malchus of Atzilus. It's only afterwards that it has to break through and pierce through the derech haparsa, the partition that is dividing between the world of Atzilus and Bria. Okay, so no, this is literally a description of the Kabbalistic perspective of how Hashem created the world. And the conclusion is what? That what do we see? We don't even see even a glimmer of that light. However, in the future time, what will be revealed is the infinite light that transcends even the tzimtzum, even the concealment or the compactness of that kav, the chalal and the vacated space. And the revelation will not be coming from the kav like it is now. That means to say that all of existence and all of eternity that we've been living in has only and merely been an expression of the kav. We will not be receiving from that level. Rather, the essence of the infinite light will be revealed. And there will be no chalal, there will be no vacuum, and there will be no hesitation or pause of that infinite light. Now again, it's not a bad or a good thing. This is just the mitzias of the world. The reality of existence is that in order that existence should feel itself as a reality, it required something called a chalal. Which means to say, in order for the students to feel themselves as actually learning something from this crazy teacher, the teacher has to actually say, you exist. But does your existence really exist? Or is it just a mere expression of what I'm teaching you? Which what I'm teaching you is only a mamish little sliver of a ray, of a crumb of the original information that the teacher has. And that's basically what Earth has been imbued by for the past 5,783 years. But Mashiach comes. The revelation of Mashiach is that, so to speak, the teacher says, the student has been built up enough. The student has been programmed enough that now he's whole and one, and I don't have to have any more concealments whatsoever. It's all part of the process. You need to say, it's not like the teacher, why didn't he just do this in the beginning? No, there's a building here. It has to go to first grade, second grade, third grade. There's a sequence of events. But once the keli of the physical world has been built up enough, the atzmus, Ein Sof, is able to be iskale, and therefore there's no need for chalal and hefsek. There's no need for any hesitation or pause in that revelation, and there's no need for any vacuum anymore. That's it, we're on the same level. I've taught you all I could, and even more. And that's why the gilui of lemaila will be lemata, because you cause that mata and maila are one. Which is not the case now. Shakav mistayim b'atzilus. The kav concludes in the world of Atzilus. Which means to say what? Imagine that, yes, I've taught you the information, but now you're going to have to go teach the information to somebody else, and imagine that person has to teach it to somebody else. And that person is not teaching it to somebody like you. He's teaching it to somebody like a 2-year-old. So therefore, there's a mistayim. It concludes. It finalizes somewhere, and only a residue of that information, only a residue of that energy is then creating the next world. Which is not the case. I skipped. Sorry. Each one are dependent on each other. When the revelation is only coming from the level of kav, therefore, as it progresses, it diminishes. Right? What is a kav? What is we say like a shooting star, right? We only saw the finale, the conclusion, right? We only see this has been shooting for I don't know, billions of years, whatever it is. So as it progresses, it diminishes. Like a rope that its head is thick And as it progresses, it becomes more thin, becomes smaller. Until it concludes in Atzilus. So that's what? That's all dealing with the Kav. At the end of the day, you're limited to the revelation, or Hashem is causing that the world should be limited by the revelation that He's allowing, which is the inyan of Kav. Which is not the case when the revelation is coming from the essence of the light. It's not being funneled through this funnel called Kav. Kav literally means also funnel. Higher and lower, the supreme worlds and the terrestrial worlds are absolutely equal. That means to say that the consciousness of Hashem is so vivid, is so potent, is so revealed that you're literally seeing within the physicality of the world the etzem of Hashem. What is the catalyst to reveal this tremendous revelation of the future times, which hopefully will be today, Mir Hashem, is by learning Torah now. Learning Torah now is connecting to a location within godliness that supersedes Kav. Bibichinas bittul. Why? Because Torah is the implication or the endowing of a sensitivity, of a focus to where the world really came from. Because within the wisdom of Torah, what is invested is the light of the infinite light. It's only in a funneled way. Through the suspension of one's self. That the essence of the person becomes totally focused and totally aligned with whatever manifestation is occurring in the Torah that he's learning. What will that cause? It will be the catalyst to reveal the essence of the light that supersedes and is higher than the kav and the chalal, that is higher than the revelation, the minimal revelation, and is surely higher than the concealment, which is the chalal. Why? Why is Torah the proper ingredient to re-imbue our life, our psyche, with the essence that is higher than the kav? That's the answer. What happens when a person nullifies their ego? Right? I soften my fixed identity. This arouses, this evokes extremely in the higher realm. Therefore, the nullity, the focus that a person has in their soul and in their chachma bin and das, and especially in their garment of machshava and dibur, when we're learning Torah, now again, he only mentions machshava and dibur, not maisa. Why? Because at the end of the day, you have to asek. Asek is not maisa, right? Asek learning is machshava and dibur. What are you doing? You're not allowing the inyan of loise chalalu. You're not allowing the vacuum of what once was, which is the concealment of godliness. You're not allowing that to pervade your world. So the bittul that you're creating within your focus of Torah removes the chalal, and therefore it increases the light within the Torah itself. Why do we use the oisik b'toira lishma? It says a person should occupy himself in learning lishma, for her own sake, for its own sake. Why do we use this lashon? It's not that you should be learning lishma, it's you should be learning in order that the Torah itself, which the Torah itself can have its own fixed identity, have its own ego. When you learn with bittul, that imbues bittul in the Torah itself. Right now, what is invested, what is enclosed, is only the kav me'orin saf, the string of light. Right, in the mashal of the teacher and the student. What I'm receiving now is only the little shear that the teacher prepared for me, me'orin saf, from the infinite light. But when a person occupies himself in learning for its own sake, you cause the revelation of the infinite light that is higher than the kav. Nevertheless, he goes back and forth. Amar Azal, our sages say, Kola oimer ein li ela Torah, afilu Torah ein loi. Anybody who says, I only have Torah, Even Torah he doesn't have. Why not? I just thought you told me that the whole entire essence of creation is imbuing the infinite light of Hashem, the Atzmis Ar Ein Sof, within the Chalal, right? So therefore I shouldn't do anything. What's mitzvahs b'chlal? Torah is the essence. But a person who says, I only have Torah, even Torah he doesn't have. Why doesn't he even have Torah if he says that's all he has? Talya Milsa. In order to achieve an inclusion of the soul within the infinite light of God, as you're learning, it's not so easy. You need a Re'usa Deliba. What's Re'usa Deliba? You need a will of the heart. Yosef Yitzchak Dubo has every day. A will of the heart. Mamish, a passion, a desire. Talya Milsa. The matter is dependent on the Re'usa Deliba, the will of the heart. That means to say that you cannot cause a vacuum within Torah itself. You hear what it's saying? Don't think that Torah is just another piece of information like you're learning math, like you're learning science. What are you doing when you're learning in that manner? It's Loy Lishma. What's Loy Lishma? You're not learning for her name. What's the name of Torah? The name of Torah is godliness. The name of Torah is Ar Ein Sof. When you're learning Loy Lishma, you're learning it as if, I'm a scholar, I'm so intellectual, so therefore Shas and arithmetic is the same thing to me. That's called Chalal. That's called you're now creating a vacuum within Torah. So therefore, how do you cause a bittul within Torah? You have to have Re'usa Deliba. Your whole being has to be understanding that it's not about my understanding. I'm learning to connect to Hashem. I'm learning that Hashem should be connected to this Torah. And this Torah is by itself. This Torah is alone. This Torah is isolated without me learning her. But I have to learn her in a way that is connecting her to Hashem. Talya Milsa. Upon your will, the will of the heart is the matter dependent. That you have to desire this bittul. And that's very hard. Because at the end of the day, when a person learns a lot, they learn a lot. That means to say that their learning becomes their occupation. So now, are you a banker? Are you a scientist? Are you real estate agent? You're not any of those things. You're a soul in a body, and you have a purpose of existence higher than your making of money. But imagine, and this is what we all say, so what do you do? Right? Baruch Hashem, we ask each other, what do you do, not who you are. But when we say, what do you do? We limit you to who you are. Oh, that's who you are, right? And unfortunately, we limit the person in accordance with the amount of money that they make. But at the end of the day, that's the farthest from the truth. So imagine I'm limiting myself to just whatever I do for a few hours a day in order to make ends meet. That's not who I am in my essence, but that's what Torah scholars do to Torah. That's why the Baal Shem Tov appreciated that simple yid. Because they were walking Re'usa Delibas. They were walking will of the hearts. That's all they had. They didn't have the scholar. Chabad is the fusion of both. Chabad is the simplicity of the soul and then the intellectual of the soul as all the same. Because the Alter Rebbe said, it's very beautiful that you're a simple Jew, but what if you're not a simple Jew? What if you're a complicated Jew? Then that complication also has to be imbued with godliness. That information or intellectual scholastic achievement that you think you have also has to be imbued with godliness. Don't leave that alone. That's why they call them the Litvak.
Oh, is that why Chabad is Chabad?
Chachma bin Adas. Yeah, it's a tikkun of, yes, absolutely.
Logical, intellectual, look how smart I am, this is my
it's a tikkun for
wealth,
that.
My mental wealth.
Yes.
It's kind of like, okay, let's infuse the simplicity of Chassidus into the mind, so
absolutely.
Understand the value of simplicity.
Particularly, yes. So that's what you just said, understanding the value of simplicity, and not just being simple. I can be simple if I'm actually simple, but most of us are not just simple. It's very rare to find the simple yid that's mamish a Baal Shemske yid. Now we're very complicated and we want to know things. So within the knowledge and our desire for knowledge,